There was another hearing today on the weaponization of the federal government, and today RFK Jr. was there, and he got grilled about his views and the recent accusations of his anti-Semitic claims. But what really ended up happening was the Democrats lied and slandered him the whole time. So I don't want to show all of them because that would take a long time, but I tell you what, now, for backstory and context, you need to know what's going on with Robert F. Kennedy. And he was talking about a study, and he was at a dinner party or a dinner, and he was having a private conversation with a group of people. And he was talking about a study, and I'm not going to try to mix up his words. I'm going to show you exactly what he said. Now, let's listen to what he said.
Bioweapons. Well, I know a lot now about bioweapons because I've been doing a book on it for the past 2.5 years, and you know, the technology that we now have to develop these microbes, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are because of the structure of the genetic structure of genetic differentials among different races of the receptors of the ACE2 receptor. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. But we don't know whether it was deliberately targeted that or not. But there are papers out there that show the racial and ethnic differential impact to that. We do know that the Chinese are spending hundreds of millions of dollars developing ethnic bioweapons, and we are developing ethnic bioweapons. That's what all those labs in the Ukraine are about. They're collecting Russian DNA, they're collecting Chinese DNA, so that we can target people by race.
Now, when he's talking about all of these things, he never said that, hey, the study was targeted for sure towards those two ethnicities. And he also mentioned that it was a study and that this isn't something that is known, and that everything he's saying was according to the study. And here's the study right here. Now, it's an actual study from the NIH. Here's the abstract. We can read through that. So when you see all these headlines that are just piling up, and when you go to look at the news, it's every single headline talks about how RFK is an anti-Semite and he made anti-Semitic remarks. And clearly, if anybody with a brain can see that those weren't anti-Semitic remarks at all. So the propaganda machine is working overtime to really try to smear him and try to discredit what he's saying, but what he's saying is true. And look, I'm not a Democrat. Not a big RFK Jr. fan. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but he's right. And when somebody's right, you back them up, because the truth is the truth, no matter what your beliefs are. You have to be based to the truth, correct? So I support Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in this, and I really condemn anybody getting slandered and lied about to the world by the federal government, who thinks they are the arbiter of truth and they should be the ones who decide what information we should see here in our democracy. Now let's watch Debbie Wasserman-Schultz make a fool of herself.
Appear here due to his repeated and very recent statements that spread dangerous anti-Semitic and anti-Asian conspiracy theories, and attempted to move into executive session because House rules prohibit public testimony that degrades or defames people. His reckless rhetoric helped fuel anti-Semitic incidents, which for the record
Like what?
are at the highest level in
Name
the United
one.
States since 1970. They have nearly tripled in the last 6 years. Since you gave Mr. Kennedy a megaphone today, I want to give him a chance to correct his statements and prepare some of the harm that he's helped cause. Mr. Kennedy, you're well educated. So yes or no, please, are you aware that for centuries Jews have been scapegoated and blamed for causing illnesses like Black Plague and more recently COVID?
I am. Those are known as blood libel, and they are one of the worst and most disturbing parts of human history.
Good. I'm glad to know that. Of course, that you acknowledge that. Of course, it's true and well documented that this pernicious form of anti-Semitism led to centuries of discrimination, even horrific pogroms and massacres, and it still fuels deadly violence today. Yet last week, you floated a baseless conspiracy theory that the coronavirus was bioengineered to target Caucasians and Black people, but to spare Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people.
But to spare
Mr.
Ashkenazi
Kennedy, your
Jews
bizarre,
and
unproven claim echoes
Chinese
that
is
same
false.
historic
That's not
slander of
what he
labeling
said.
Jews and Chinese people as a race, and that Jews, and in this case Chinese people, somehow managed to avoid a deadly illness that targets other groups for death. You do see that, yes or no?
You're misstating.
No.
Have you ever heard of sickle
I
cell
quoted what you
anemia?
said earlier,
Do white
and
people
it is
get that?
directly what you said. So just ask me yes
No,
or no.
I was describing an NIH-funded study.
No, you didn't cite any.
I was
Yes, you did.
describing an NIH-funded study by Cleveland Clinic
Reclaiming my
scientists.
time. Reclaiming my time. You
And
did not
you-
reference. Reclaiming my
Published
time.
in USC
Mr.
Medical,
Chairman,
which
the
is
time
one.
mine. The time is mine. I'm reclaiming it. Please ask the witness to stop talking.
You asked me a
Right.
question.
Reclaiming.
Allow me to
my-
answer my
Agree with all
question.
that, too.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like
Slander.
about 10 seconds
The
back.
time
You are
belongs.
slandering me
Time belongs to the-
incorrectly.
time belongs
to
You're
the-
saying is dishonest.
Time
I
belongs to
need
the gentlelady
a
from
time to
Florida.
defend myself.
Mr.
Time
Chairman,
belongs to the gentlelady from Florida.
I'd like 15 seconds back.
We will
Mr.
be happy to
Chairman.
give you that.
Thank you so much. You did not cite any study like you are citing here now during that conversation. You referenced no study at all. You simply labeled Jews and Chinese people as a race, and you also said that
Simply
somehow
labeled
they managed to
Jews
avoid a deadly
and
illness
Chinese
that
as a
targets
race.
other groups for death. You don't see
That's
that?
not
You're trying to
simply what
rewrite
happened
history
at
here.
all.
A few months ago, Mr. Kennedy, you compared COVID public health policies to barbaric murderous tactics of Nazi Germany, saying that Jewish people in Nazi Germany had more freedom than Americans facing COVID health restrictions. In hindsight, Mr. Kennedy, do you reject this absurd and deeply hurtful and harmful comparison, or do you still stand by it?
Congressman, what you are saying
I'm a
is a lie.
congresswoman. That you said it.
No, I did not. I never
Okay.
I never, ever
Mr. Chairman, I'm
compared
happy to
COVID
answer into the record when Mr.
countermeasures.
Kennedy said that. I reclaim my time. In discussing COVID public health measures, you made light of the genocide against Jewish people by saying, and I quote, even Hitler's Germany, you could cross the Alps to Switzerland, you could hide in an attic like Anne Frank did. Mr. Kennedy, do you think it was easy for Jewish people to escape systematic slaughter of Nazis, yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Relevant to
good.
this whole thing.
Mr. Kennedy, do you think it was just as hard to
Irrelevant.
wear a mask during COVID as it was to hide under floorboards or false walls so you weren't murdered or dragged to a concentration camp? Yes or no?
Excuse me?
That's a
Straw man
question, yes or
argument
no?
is exactly
I
what
didn't
it
hear
is.
your question.
Okay. I said, do you think it was just as hard to wear a mask during COVID as it was to hide under floorboards or false walls so you weren't murdered or dragged to a concentration camp?
Of course not. That's
Okay.
ridiculous.
But that's a comparison that you made.
I did
Mr.
not
Kennedy,
make that
were the measures taken to contain the spread and fatalities related to COVID in any way at all comparable to the murder of 6 million Jews, yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Irrelevant again.
Let's be very clear here. There's no legitimate comparison to the Holocaust. It doesn't matter if you're talking about AI, vaccine mandates, or anything else. There is no comparison. And if this were a slip of the tongue, Mr. Kennedy, or a one-off comment, we would all move on. But there's a deeply disturbing pattern. In 2015, you apologized to all those, quote, whom I offended by my use of the word Holocaust to describe the autism epidemic. When discussing
Shouldn't
efforts to
have
encourage others to
apologized.
get vaccinated
That's why you
for
never
COVID-19, you
apologize.
said Nazis did that in the camps in World War II. They tested vaccines on gypsies and Jews. That was a
Did they
quote.
not?
Like before, you apologized for invoking the Holocaust, saying, quote, to the extent my remarks caused hurt, I am truly and deeply sorry. These are not real statements of contrition or remorse. They are passive-aggressive non-apologies that blame the listener for reacting to
Passive-aggressive.
the lie you just spread. I'm deeply saddened that this is a conversation
The
we're
left
having today. I
is
have deep respect for what Mr.
the
Kennedy's
party
family
of
did and
projection.
still does to make life better for all Americans. But what you are doing now, Mr. Kennedy, and the forces you aligned yourself are reckless, dangerous, and disturbing by echoing dangerous claims such as, quote, Jews don't really suffer as much as we do, which you said. Your rhetoric creates a climate of mistrust,
not what he said.
antagonism, and even hatred
Not what he said
or
at all.
violence against Jewish people. My own children have been the targets of brutal anti-Semitism on social
Now she's
media.
the victim.
You fan those flames
Now
and
she's the
jeopardize their
victim.
safety. You've
She's
marginalized
been
other groups
victimized by
too,
his
like
words.
Asian Americans and the
His ideas are
LGBTQ+ community.
dangerous.
And worse, you don't seem to care or brush it all off to misquotes and misunderstanding. Frankly, it's disgusting. Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
Misquotes.
I yield back the
That's
balance.
exactly what it
Mr.
is.
Chairman, I have unanimous consent
The
request.
gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for UC.
I ask unanimous consent to introduce into
Mr.
the
Massey.
record a study that Mr. Kennedy just referenced, new insights into genetic susceptibility of COVID-19. The main body said that they investigated genetic susceptibility to COVID-19 by examining DNA polymorphism in ACE2 and TMPRSS2. Those are receptors for COVID in 81,000 human genomes, and they found unique genetic susceptibility across different populations. I have another document that I'd
showed
like
earlier.
to ask unanimous consent
Without objection?
to submit, and this is from the FDA review of efficacy and safety of Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. This is dated December 10th, 2020, and it shows that the Pfizer trial and the USDA broke down the effectiveness of the vaccine into 7 different racial categories, because this was also a concern of theirs, and it would frankly be delinquent not to study the effects across the
But
different
Mr.
races.
Kennedy
Without
said it was bioengineered to
Without objection.
target,
Was
to
bioengineered.
target
Time
blacks
belongs
and
to the-
Caucasians.
The gentleman from Utah
And
is
spare
recognized for 5
whites,
minutes.
and spare Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people. That is different than
Time
any of
belongs
those
to the
studies
gentleman
looked
from
at.
Utah.
Thank you, claiming my time.
Now, like I said, she's not the only one who made a fool of herself today, but for time's sake, and I know that people like these shorter videos, I decided to just really cover one. And if you have high blood pressure, you can understand why. And the other thing is, we don't get to see the other side very much. Whenever you look at clips, you're always watching people that are on your side and watching their questioning, but we never really get to see the other side too much, and their lies and the disgusting slandering that happens regularly in these hearings. This is not the first time it's happened, but it's important for everybody to see this and to know what's really going on with their federal government. So I hope you got something out of this. Thank you for sticking around this long, and please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Help us grow this family. And until next time, peace be with you.